Good morning. We will start this very joyous event with a song of invocation. And may I request Mallika Bhatt?
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रामृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्कर प्रभृतिभिर्देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः.
Thank you very much, Mallika. Good morning again. I'm delighted to welcome you all to the inaugural program of the Mazumdar-Shaw Laboratory for Frontier Biology at JNCASR today. Let us first greet and welcome the chief guest of the event, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, the founder and chairperson of Biocon, with a bouquet of flowers and the memento. May I request our president, Professor G.U. Kulkarni, to do the honors, please. Amongst us, we have Bharat Ratna, Professor C.N.R. Rao, who is the founder president of the center, who has guided and actively nurtured the growth of the center all along. And we are honored to have him amongst us at this event. And I request Professor Kulkarni to present a bouquet of flowers to Professor Rao, please. We are also delighted that Dr. Indumati Rao is with us today to grace this occasion, and we welcome her with a bouquet of flowers as well. It's great to have two past presidents of the center with us at this august occasion today. And they are also brilliant and accomplished biologists who led the center and impacted its activities during the terms of their leadership. Professor M.R.S. Rao led the center during 2003 to 2013, and Professor V. Nagaraja was our president during 2015 to 2019. I request Professor Kulkarni to present bouquets to Professor Rao and Professor Nagaraja. During the interim periods, the center was led by our senior colleague, Professor K.S. Narayan, as our president, and we are delighted that he is with us too, and we appreciate him with a bouquet of flowers. Yeah. Thank you, Professor Kulkarni. I'll make a few brief introductory remarks and then get going with the rest of this event. Established in 1989, JNCASR is an autonomous institution funded by the Department of Science and Technology of Government of India. It became an institution deemed to be university in 2002 and now has over 340 graduate students and 44 faculty members. Their research is focused on interdisciplinary areas in material science and biological sciences. A little bit about our chief guest. Dr. Kiran is known for compassionate capitalism, which combines a social worker's empathy with a chief executive's mindset. In this model, the proven business strategies are used to build a durable foundation for sustainable social development, and she has made significant visionary contributions to the health sector with focus on integrative cancer research and therapy reaching out to a very large number of people. We are delighted that she is with us to grace this occasion today. Based on our request and discussions following her visit to the center in January 2016, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw kindly accorded a donation to JNCASR with a goal to support our endeavor to undertake research in new and emerging areas in biological sciences, while also strengthening our core capabilities. This has enabled JNCASR to build a laboratory, training facility, and plan research in the new areas of biology like synthetic biology, system biology, nanobiotechnology, and biomaterials. Consequently, the building named Mazumdar-Shaw Laboratory for Frontier Biology has been constructed at the center with the generous support from Dr. Kiran, and we are here today for its inauguration. Thank you, and we look forward to the rest of this event to unfold.
Well, thanks for giving me this role today. Is it fine now? It's with great joy that I wish to share with all of you facilitation and involvement of Bharat Ratna Professor C.N.R. Rao, and a generous gift made by Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, which has resulted in enhancing our academic scientific working environment by creating an extraordinary lab setup named Mazumdar-Shaw Laboratory for Frontier Biology. With the video display on, which is giving us a view of Mazumdar-Shaw lab, which we'll visit after some time, and I request all of you to come over there. I want to mention regarding the following things. I was supposed to tell about the way it is we went about building it up, but I'll postpone that for some time in this discussion or when we meet later on. But what I want to mention is that we've already gotten going with using parts of it. This facility, this lab, now houses major equipment platform facilities, including mass spec, cell sorters, genomics facility, and bioimaging, which are already being utilized extensively. It has, this is the mass spec facility that you see here. It has a central instrument facility, which are relatively small equipment, not mega equipment. And that very well done up hall is beginning to be occupied now. We've used just about 10% of it, and will occupy as per the growth of our requirements. One of the main feature of this building is a conference hall. We didn't have a conference hall of setting of about 50 people or so. Where we can hold sort of small, intimate meetings, scientific meetings, workshops, training workshops, etc., etc. So this is a hall which is incorporated. A meeting room, and we have begun to use that, extensively use that for some of the meetings and interviews. And a meeting room, very well done up aesthetically, many aesthetics incorporated, which we'll begin to use from today. We have not used that today, I think. So these have already become favorite places for my colleagues to hold meetings and training workshops. Each of these, especially conference rooms and meeting rooms, are equipped with high quality audio, video, and networking devices, which can help us connect to any lab, any scientist, any organization in the world to carry on the activities we want. When we visit the place after some time, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, you'll get to see what your support has meant for us and the need it is already begin to serve. And I'm indeed thankful to you for that. I remember your previous visit and an expression that Professor C.N.R. Rao had. And he indicated that if in one word or one expression, I have to sum up what you stand for, and that's an eternal optimism. And I've not forgotten that word. With that optimism, with your tireless spirit to work for great positivity to the extent I have gotten to know at our small occasions, rather infrequent, though not small occasions, in last 20, 25 years, I couldn't agree more with that. And with those qualities, what you have created for the biotechnology industry, which was a misnomer from the time in 80s when it started, and its true meaning of that actually has come in the country from your work. This is indeed what I believe. So this has taken effort, and indeed, all those things for what you have created have created an environment for you to support us. So we are indeed very humbled and honored for that, and more so that you kindly agreed to increase the gift after the final stages of completion of this meeting, which was a sort of a rare gesture. There have been delays from our side, many of them, but we got whatever we wanted from you in a very, very timely manner. Thank you perhaps does not justify your understanding and generosity. It has helped us in many unspeakable ways, in many unanticipated ways, and in unexpected situations that we faced in the last 6 months. And these will surely be held in very high regard in my memory. I must mention that during the course of this process began, I requested Jai Chandra to give me some details, and he sent me fine print 10 pages last night to say these are all very important things. Now, I've been trying to read these thinking I have to take my thesis defense today, actually. But, this process began, as Professor Ramesh Wagmare indicated, in Jan 2016. We went through many formalities very efficiently. I remember visits to Mindspace, Sanjay Mohi's place after our PhD interviews in MBGU. And your younger colleague, Fazil, used to bring me to Mindspace at around 8 o'clock on his bullet. And I'm sort of shy on sitting on two-wheelers and all, but he managed that very, very well. And when I go to his place, what a lively place it is at 9 o'clock with all the young people working, and the whole team will get together, etc., etc. And that led to giving details to the Biocon. Finally, we started around September. Request for this program was made in March 29, and I must say that this was a difficult construction for reasons. I had the opportunity to interact with Professor V. Nagaraja, Professor Narayan, who gave their wholehearted support. Professor M.R.S. Rao injected his thoughts of vision as to how we should perceive the whole thing. So I'm thankful to all of you for that, etc. Now, I want to put on record a deep gratitude for now, appreciation for now, and forever to your whole team, and especially to you, I'll end here, but I think I'll fail in my duty if I don't thank other members of the Biocon team. I was looking forward to see Ramesha, with whom I had a lot of interaction, Mindspace team, the people who were involved in management team and the Rockline builders, each one of them came together. So very many thanks to you again, and I stop here and invite Professor Manisha Inamdar to give a bird's eye view of the research activities that we are carrying out in biological sciences at this center. Manisha.
So a very good morning, and at the outset, I'd like to thank and welcome Professor Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, and of course, in the august presence of our visionary Bharat Ratna Professor C.N.R. Rao, and also Professor G. Kulkarni, President JNCASR. So. Professor Anand has very nicely given you the history and, the genesis of how this wonderful gift that we have received in the form of a state-of-the-art facility and building for biological sciences at JNC was established. And what I'd like to do in the next 5 minutes or so allotted to me is take you through a very brief, overview of research in the life sciences at JNCSR. And as you know very well, biology is an integral part of all of our lives, and one could think of biological systems at various levels, starting from genes or the DNA that we all harbor, right up to a series of networks, which could be molecular networks, cellular, organ networks, all embedded in each individual, who of course has to interact with various social networks, and these being limited not just to human beings, but to the ecology and the environment around us. So with this kind of background in mind, it was, of course, as always, very visionary of Professor C.N.R. Rao to think of initiating research in biological sciences at JNCSR way back in 1994, with the idea that it should be embedded in the theoretical and other physical, chemical, and so on, material sciences. And after this, very small genesis, biological science has gone through various avatars, if I may say so, and has currently, a fantastic set of members. And today we are organized into multiple units, one being the evolutionary and integrative biology unit, where the focus is on understanding biology in the context of the organism, embedded in its ecology, in its natural environment. Two other units which come under the School of Biological Sciences are the Molecular Biology and Genetics unit, focused on understanding concepts in biology, as well as providing solutions applicable to healthcare and medicine. And the Neuroscience unit, of course, focused obviously on neuroscience, the nervous system, and its role in modulating behaviors and physiological processes. So clearly, this requires looking at biology at various scales, from the genome, the DNA, to various biomolecules, cells, circuits, organs, organisms, and whole populations. And though we are, a tightly knit, small environment, we do cover all of these scales. And interestingly, each group covers more than one scale. So if I were to, point to various scales that any given group is working at, it would, span multiple length scales here. And of course, biology today is not just biology alone. It requires input from various other disciplines, and almost all the faculty are looking at various disciplines like chemistry, material science, engineering, computational biology, physics, clinical and translational studies, and maths. And all these inputs come from a wonderful environment at JNC, allowing cross-disciplinary science as well as national and international collaborations. So it's not easy to condense all of this wide range of biology and associated science in 5 minutes. So I've just chosen a few vignettes here of the various kinds of research going on, and I'd like to thank Dr. Kushagra Bansal for his help in choosing these. So starting at the level of DNA and chromatin, we have studies on the chromatin dynamics and how it regulates transcription, also chromatin biology and how RNA regulates it. And this has led to, of course, major discoveries in fundamental biology, but also application, for example, using nanobiotechnology for targeted therapy of various small molecules that were discovered or synthesized here in JNC and have been used in preclinical studies of various sorts. So one example of connecting from the DNA level to the animal level and to application. Major set of efforts is based around infectious diseases, primarily looking at fungal pathogens and primarily at Candida albicans and how the Candida genome evolved. So though this is looking at fungus, you see there is the connect to the DNA, genome evolution, chromatin proteins, how they evolved, and a lot of very innovative bioinformatics analysis and biology has been done here. Another focus is on malaria and the pathogen Plasmodium, looking from two angles. One is looking at developing new antimalarials, targeting various pathways that are unique to the parasite, and the other is looking at molecular enzymology, protein structure, function analysis to again identify targetable or druggable pathways. Of course, when you have infectious disease, you need an immune system to overcome it. And we have strong immunobiology research where one of the pathogens that's been looked at is the HIV virus that causes HIV AIDS. Especially the focus is on HIV-1C, the subtype C, which is very prevalent in our country compared to the rest of the world. And very fundamental research and insightful research has been done on trying to find out how this subtype C manifests its disease, what happens to latency, and whether this virus is the fittest, how it evolved, and how it could be silenced. These efforts and expertise in virology have also been leveraged during the pandemic to provide training in handling the COVID viruses, though not with the live virus, and also efforts in the INSACOG genome sequencing efforts. So, of course, all of these pathogens affect the immune system, and one major effort is to understand how a healthy immune response can be mounted against such pathogens, looking again at regulators at the level of DNA or chromatin and transcription, and seeing how these could be enhanced or their activity could be enhanced to regulate the immune system and its function. Moving on from the biomolecules, a next level of organization and networking is the organelle systems, or the small assemblies of various lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids in membrane-bound structures in the cell. And this is really the frontier now, where there are emerging concepts of how regulation happens not just at the level of the genome, but the signaling at the level of the organelles is absolutely critical for very rapid responses. And one major and unique effort at JNC is to study autophagy and its related pathways, which are relevant in multiple contexts of development as well as disease, and new regulators such as septins that regulate this trafficking of how a protein or a molecule gets from one part of the cell to the other, how this process is regulated, how defective or dead molecules are cleared up, and how a balance or homeostasis is maintained at the level of the cells, which then translates to maintaining the balance at the level of the organ, tissue, and the organism. Interestingly, multiple groups are approaching it in different ways. So one of the studies is looking at mitochondrial biology in yeast and Candida, and this has led to a new mechanism of magnesium ion dependent functioning for affecting the balance of mitochondria in young versus old cells and has implications in aging. A completely different approach has looked at mitochondria in metabolic plasticity in human stem cells and maintaining the balance between whether you make a stem cell or you make it differentiate into something else. And also, as going from yeast to a complete animal, the mouse, a mammal, using mitochondrial biology and organelle biology to understand how you can regulate these organelles. What are the mechanisms that regulate these organelles to keep them young in younger animals or younger stem cells, and what happens when they go wrong, and when the animal ages and so on. So a very sort of diverse set of approaches converging onto similar kind of principles. Another very important aspect is looking at development and genetics, developmental genetics, and how it applies to disease models. And I'll give you just one example again of how very diverse approaches have brought us to converge on microtubule associated proteins, microtubules being the cytoskeleton or the skeleton of a given cell. And one effort was, to discover what are the genes that are defective in various brain disorders, which led to identification of various microtubule associated proteins in neurons, which keep the brain, functioning properly, developing properly, and so on. So this was a sort of neurobiology kind of approach. Another, again, was looking at how yeast divide and go through their cell cycle, looking at microtubules from the yeast. So another approach coming from the yeast. And a third looking at the development of the blood vessels and the cardiovascular system, and looking at how during development you have normal development of the heart or you have mutant development. So again, a very kind of diverse set of approaches converging on common themes. Another very important area of research is looking at human stem cells of various kinds. Various groups are doing these, and one example here is making blood from human stem cells. So some of the first human embryonic stem cell lines were derived right here at JNCASR, and current efforts are, looking at all of these processes using an in vitro human model. The neurosciences unit, of course, brings a lot of focus on neurodevelopment and neurodegeneration. So, for example, looking at genetic mutations that cause diseases like hydrocephalus, a neurodevelopmental disorder, and how it affects the physiology and the brain development in health and disease. Another is looking at neurodegeneration, which happens generally late onset, and looking specifically at intellectual disorders, autism spectrum disorders, and mutations that cause these. Sort of tangential effort which has connected to this is looking at autophagy and neurodegeneration, and identifying through screens small molecules that will help alleviate some of the neurodegeneration. This has also come from another nanobiotechnology kind of approach to look for molecules that will target neurodegeneration. Of course, as we talk of development and disease, one has to keep track of time, and that is a very important aspect of our lives, our rhythms that we follow. So the chronobiology lab looks at early and late development, early and late behaviors that are circadian or not, looking at the underlying genetics and the neuronal correlates, doing behavioral experiments with organisms like Drosophila in the actual field kind of setting, as well as in the molecular and cell biology setting. Similarly, neurogenetics of deafness, looking at hereditary hearing loss, and several discoveries have been made which are very unique in this area and have come from JNCASR. Another aspect is application of the insights gained from neurobiology to various disorders. And one very successful example has been the artificial retina device, which has been a fantastic collaboration between biologists and physicists, trying to develop this very unique system based on multiple microelectrode arrays to try and mimic an artificial retina, which has implications for vision disorders of various sorts. So what I've told you so far is embedded in looking at contexts of development or disease or, kind of abnormal situations and how to rectify that. But one has to remember that, we are generally in a normal state and we are embedded in our ecology, in our environment. And it's very, very important to understand that, as well as the interaction with various, features of the environment and various creatures in the environment. So one of the major efforts under ecology and behavior is to study animal behavior. And of course, this ranges from studying birds to elephants, so really a wide scale, evaluating, various conservation biology efforts, developing new techniques such as census techniques and non-invasive molecular sexing and genotyping and so on. So again, some connect to DNA even when one is looking in nature, comparing various geographies in this context and developing and conceptualizing new theories, in evolutionary biology. So, of course, when one is looking at nature at these various scales, there is limited scope for experimentation, and one can observe, elephant generations for only so long. So another effort is to take, these kind of questions to the lab, use model organisms like Drosophila, and look at life history, evolution, various traits, mechanisms or behaviors that lead to sexual selection or conflict, and how speciation arises with very, very long, hundreds and hundreds of generation long studies in these model organisms, and how these affect the population dynamics, how they adapt to various conditions like, let's say, crowding and so on. So this basically, keeps us grounded, going from the molecular to sort of, the natural setting. And of course, all this is possible only because of, the excellent support and facilities that we have here at JNC. A lot of technology and innovation has been happening. I told you about some biomedical research, drug discovery, a lot of patented discoveries. This work has led to development of many models of development, disease across, again, various, size scales. And of course, this has benefited from a lot of national and international funding. The faculty are very, very talented and enthusiastic bunch. So of course, though we are not large in numbers, we do pack a punch. And there are several prestigious fellowships and awards that have been bestowed on the various biology colleagues. And of course, our academic programs are our major strength. Our master's, integrated PhD, and PhD students are really the driving force. We have the best that one can get, supported by trainings, workshops, and so on. And Professor Anand showed you in that brief video some of the facilities that we are now really happy to have and enthusiastic and grateful about in the new Frontiers Biology building, where it will only augment and enhance these kind of activities that we have ongoing. So with that, I'd like to stop and just tell you once again that this was just, a very, very brief overview of some of the selected works, but I hope you will get some time to discuss and enjoy with my colleagues. And this is a photograph of, some of our members of biology at the new building, very generously, supported by Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. So with that, I'd like to end my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Good morning. First, I would like to thank my colleagues, Professor Umesh Wagmare, Dean Faculty Affairs, for those welcoming remarks, and Professor Anand and Professor Manisha Inamdar for those presentations. We all agree this is a very momentous occasion, a great day for the center. We are inaugurating the Mazumdar-Shaw Laboratory for Frontier Biology. And to perform this, we have none other than Dr. Shah with us. A hearty welcome, madam, to the event, and also thank you for sparing your time in your busy schedule. As we know, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw is the executive chairperson and founder of the Biocon Limited and Biocon Biologics Limited. A well-known figure, she is highly accomplished individual and a well-known personality in the academic, technology, industry, and business worlds. I'm proud to mention that she was inducted as Honorary Fellow of JNCASR in 2015. Thank you. And I just learned that she has been selected to receive fellowship from the Royal Society of Edinburgh. Is that right? Congratulations. And on this occasion, of course, we have Professor Rao with us. Thank you, sir. And Dr. Indumati Rao, Professor M.R.S. Rao, Professor Nagaraja, Professor Narayan, and many colleagues in this hall. Thank you for coming. And this is also the occasion to welcome and thank our architect team, Mr. Mohe is here, and the technical team, MSP team, so on and so forth. Thank you for coming. Manisha summarized very well. In fact, Anand also gave the background. We have been focusing on interdisciplinary research, as you just witnessed. And Manisha did speak briefly about how we take our inventions through the translational activity and try to mature these inventions so that we could transfer them to industry. And so I'm proud to mention that next week we have an event in the same hall where some of those inventions, you'll be witnessing technology transfer happening next week. And as we are progressing with our activities, it was felt a couple of years ago. Those years, for a short spell, I was not here. But during that time, the initiation took place to build a sophisticated instrumentation laboratory covering very many areas of biology and also training facilities. And that time, the center approached Dr. Shah for possible funding. And she being the philanthropic supporter, she readily agreed to extend whatever we took for. And this activity I'm personally familiar with because way back in 2003 or 4, I approached her to support an international conference for which she readily agreed. You may not remember, me. And not only she supported, and it was kind of Dr. Shah couple, they came down to the conference to greet Professor Rao. They were there with us for some time. Very kind of you. So Dr. Shah, through Mazumdar-Shaw Philanthropy, not only donated financially, but also arranged to provide the technical support. This is very unique, and we got greatly benefited. And this technical team worked with our estate office, our administration, and that's how we could realize this structure today. And challenges are many. Anand actually touched upon. As the structure came up, we realized that we could go a little extra, build some additional structure. And having done that, we incurred some cost. And we again, went for help to Dr. Shah, and she readily transferred the extra amount, whatever. So I think in all, we have to the tune of around 5 crores support, which has come from this philanthropic activity. Thank you very much. And you have seen all the pictures and all. I'm not going to go through those. It's already hosting lots of active laboratories and students are working there. And one important point I would like to mention is it also came to serve us during a crisis, which I myself witnessed. Last November, we had unprecedented flood, waterlogging on the campus, and our older buildings, biological labs, older buildings, they all were waterlogged.
And people now then looked at the new building, which is at some elevation. And in fact, immediately they could transfer whatever they could salvage to the new building. And, that's how it served us as a shelter in that crisis moment. So, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, despite your hectic schedule, you kindly agreed to be with us today. It's such a great event. It shows your generous support and the way you look at us, the academic fraternity. Thank you very much for being with us, and thank you for all your support. And can you please address us for a few minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Kulkarni. I'm absolutely honored to be in the presence of my dear friend and mentor, Bharat Ratna Professor C.N.R. Rao. And of course, having Indu here is even an added pleasure. I'd of course also like to acknowledge Professor M.R.S. Rao and Professor Nagaraja and Anuranjan. Thank you for that, those comments you made. For me, I've always believed that science is at the heart of society and economic development. Scientific progress is what determines what societies are all about and how societies will progress. And I think all of us should be extremely grateful and feel very blessed that the city that we live in is the science capital of our country. And I can tell you one of the stalwarts of this is, of course, Bharat Ratna C.N.R. Rao. I think people like him have actually brought in a huge scientific temper into the way we think about developing our economy, our city, our social development, etc., etc. And for me as a scientist, obviously, I've been very passionate about promoting science in every which way I can. To begin with, I pride myself in being a very research-led entrepreneur. I've always believed that it is research and innovation that will actually build the character and a DNA of an entrepreneur, because I never wanted to be a Me Too entrepreneur. I always wanted to pursue science, research, and innovation to distinguish the organization that I build. And today I'm extremely proud of the fact that we have one of the largest, scientific population, I might say, in life sciences in the private sector. In the Biocon group today, and what we call as the Biocon Park, we have over 6,000 scientists in that given piece of, premises that we occupy. And of course, if I add to it engineers and other, scientific professionals, I think we have over 10,000 just operating in that area. So I think it gives me a lot of pride and satisfaction that we have actually, nurtured, groomed, and given such wonderful opportunities to scientists and engineers and other kinds of associate professionals in the scientific milieu. And I really believe that Bangalore has grown to a stature where its software engineers, its biomedical researchers, and of course, all its scientific institutions have really made it the city that it is. For me, this particular gift that I've given to JNC is, of course, a very small gesture on my part to say thank you for what you're doing for the city of Bengaluru, for the scientists. And I'm sure that, with all that is happening on this campus, you will start creating enormous scientific value for the country. I was just having a chat a little earlier on, and I was saying that what the scientific academic world needs are tech transfer offices. I really believe that you have a lot of very important work that you're doing here I know that you mentioned about having a meeting where you're going to talk about some of the discoveries you made, some of the inventions you made, some of the patents you filed, and how you want to basically license many of these patents to industry. But I must also tell you that you need to be a tough negotiator with industry. And therefore, I believe that you need to have a tech transfer office that helps you to do this. I just heard about a great, milestone that you had recently in licensing an Alzheimer's molecule. I also know that you have a autism molecule, which is licensable. I think what you're doing here is amazing, but I think you need to understand the value of what you're creating. And that value will only be known and understood when you have a very strong tech transfer office that allows you to capture the true value. Or otherwise, what will happen is like what we always do in this country, we undervalue a lot of what we do. And therefore, we don't really get recognized for the true value of what we create. I have, of course, been talking to the government saying that they should allocate a small part of the National Science Foundation, of which fund that they've created for 50,000 crores, for creating tech transfer offices across the country in the leading research institutes. I think in Bengaluru, certainly there's an opportunity to create a shared tech transfer office, since most of the research institutes are in this area, whether it's JNC, whether it's NCBS, whether it's IISC. I think this is a true opportunity we have of kickstarting such a concept. I really think that scientists need to understand and be rewarded for the value that they're creating. Today, I think we undervalue the kind of scientific efforts and the scientific prowess that we have in the country. I think scientists are just being taken for granted. And I believe that scientists ought to be given their recognition by valuing what they have done in the way that I've just mentioned. It's not all about the money, it's about value. I think I always tell people, please don't look at it as a monetary aspect of science. It's the impact that science creates, which is the value that we have to ascribe to that impact. And for me as an entrepreneur, I've always believed that. I've always said it's not about the wealth that people ascribe to me, but it's really about the value of how that wealth was created. So I will end by saying, kudos to all that you have done, and here's to greater and greater scientific success. And, I look forward to hearing wonderful things coming out of it, the lab that, bears my name. But I also look forward to, hearing about great milestones that this institution achieves over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shah, for your kind words. Certainly, we'll do something related to Tech Transfer Office. I'll be in touch with Professor K.R. Srinivas, Dean R&D. He did mention to me about his conversations with you. On this occasion, I'm happy to mention that Dr. Indumati Rao will be giving remarks. Madam, would you like to come here? You can also use that mic.
Good afternoon, everybody, especially Kiran. It's wonderful having you on our campus. I still remember the first time you were here and I was picking up some paper and you were quite struck by that. So that's how we work here. Welcome back, and we are really delighted to have you here. It has been a wonderful journey for all of us, and I want to read Professor Rao's message. Before that, personally, I want to say that JNC has been a wonderful journey for those of us who have seen it grow from scratch, literally a barren piece of land, to this flourishing, eco-friendly place. And everybody who's associated with the center has contributed enormously towards it. And we can proudly pat ourselves on our back. Having said that, I want to read Professor Rao's message to the gathering. I'm quoting him. I'm a very dear friend of Kiran. She's a great founder of industry. She's kind and considerate. You have been a witness of the generosity of Kiran. I'm fortunate for having known her for a number of years in many capacities. She's really a gem. Maybe I will add, she's a jewel in the crown. Let's all congratulate her for her foresight in supporting a major building on this campus, the Frontier Laboratory for Frontier Biology building. On a personal basis, my wife and I have enjoyed knowing her and sharing many wonderful moments with her. Thank you, Kiran.
Thank you for that kind words, sir. Madam, for your remarks. Respected Bharat Ratna Professor CNR Rao, our guest and the fellow of JNCASR, Dr. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, President Professor G. Kulkarni, our guiding pillars and past presidents, Professor M.R.S. Rao, Professor V. Nagaraja, and Professor K.S. Narayan, Mrs. Indumati Rao, esteemed faculty colleagues, faculty members from Biology Division, my colleagues, the deans of the center. Every religion on the earth taught us that charity is the best way to attaining moksha. However, only a handful of them believes in this and practice. Among them, only a tiny number believe that the philanthropy should be for a purpose and a vision to create the future. And they feel that it should be for needy and it is to build a society. So here is a person with a mission for India along with the philanthropy called the Mazumdar-Shaw philanthropy. Some give because they feel good, some because they get tax write-offs, and some because they are guilted into it. But here is a person who gives from her heart. We acknowledge the generous donation of Dr. Shah to our center to build a state-of-the-art laboratory, enabling us to carry out research in the frontier areas of biology. In fact, Madam, your kind contribution has enabled the JNCR researchers to embark on newer areas of biology, which may lead to new ideas, possibility of new experiments, and facilitated conducting interactive training programs for younger generation. Actually, COVID delayed us to have a grant program. Now also we are in that situation. However, with a compromised condition, we have only the smaller number with only the faculty from biology representing this program. Madam, we thank you for your trust in us and your initiative to support us and your belief that science only can change the society. And despite your time constraints, I know I have been talking to Lata many times. When do we fix this? From almost 2019. Unfortunately, we couldn't arrive at a common date when just before COVID. And after COVID, whatever has gone is history. And despite your busy schedule, now you have taken so much of time to be with us. Thank you very much, ma'am. Yeah. We are ever grateful to Bharat Ratna Professor C.N.R. Rao, not because he's one of the very eminent scientists of this country and the world, not just because he is one among who have helped the development of science in the country, not just because you have given us this wonderful campus to live in, not also just because you have been guiding us throughout, but for teaching us that giving is the way of life. Both Mrs. Indumati Rao and Professor Rao give away whatever is their earnings to the society. And this is what we learn along with their science. Sir, despite your health condition, you have made time to be with us in this program. Thank you very much, sir. Madam Rao, thank you very much to be with us and to say a few words on this occasion. I must thank our past presidents, Professor M.R.S. Rao, Professor V. Krishnan, and Professor Nagaraja, and Professor Narayan. All of these have led us in the process of this particular grant donation, how to go about it, and how do we make this program successful. And particularly, I must mention Professor V. Nagaraja, who has been sitting us day and night. At 8 p.m. in the night, he calls us. He say that, no, whatever you have mentioned is not right. You will have to mention this. You will have to project this. You will have to talk like this. You will have to present, your argument like this. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Professor Nagaraja also visited Biocon many times regarding this grant. Our president, Professor G.U. Kulkarni, has been a guiding force. He is very meticulous planner and desires that the building constructed should be used very constructively for taking the biological research to the newer heights. We thank him for his continued support, guidance, and his presence. Thank you, sir. Actually, I will fail in my duty if I do not mention about Professor Anranjan Anand. Professor Anand was instrumental in preparing the proposal to be sent to MSP to start with. And he was involved in the concept and planning. And also, like a contractor, he monitored the building construction. And day in and day out, he will come and say that this is right, this is not right, this is right, you should be doing this, the building should be done like this, laboratory is not built like this. And it so happened that Mr. Ramesha, who's from the Biocon, will say, sir, it will not happen. No, Professor Anand says, no, it should happen like this because it's a laboratory. So finally, we will arrive at a consensus. Thank you, Professor Anand, for this, your generous help in this regard. And all of us know that he's a scientist besides, he's a guiding force, for this building. And a special person I must mention is Mr. Ramesha from Biocon. Ramesha is one person who doesn't have time limits, who doesn't have any constraints. Okay, he will say that what he needs to be done. Okay, as far as the structural issues, as far as other issues, Ramesha will be with us all the time, and we are grateful and thankful to Mr. Ramesha. And here is a person, Lata Sharma. Okay, I must mention about her. She is the first person whom we contacted when we wrote the proposal, and she initiated the grant from the day when we submitted the proposal. Very helpful, despite her busy schedule. She will be attending hundreds of calls, but she will have time for us, and promptly replies to our queries. She is present with us. May I request our President, Lata, will you please come and receive a gift from our side, please? Sir, if you can be there for 2 minutes. I have the pleasant duty to invite Sanjay Mohe, a famous architect, okay, who has designed this building. And it's so nice of him, that he understands what is needed for the laboratory and builds according to the needs. And he understands the language that Professor Rao speaks. So here is Sanjay Mohe. Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. We have two more. Sir, if you can, 1 minute, sir. Mr. Murli and Mr. Linus. Okay, Murli is the project management consultant, and Mr. Linus is the contractor who has built this building. We are grateful to them that they have built this nice building. Thank you, Mr. Murli. Yeah. As Professor Anand mentioned, we remember many people who have contributed in this endeavor. And I also thank our deans, all faculty members from the biology, my colleagues, and also the people who are audiovisual people, and a particular person, Dr. Jannavi, who has come from the science gallery. Thank you very much. And we are moving to the building, which is near the biology block of our campus. So at about 12 o'clock, Madam Shaw will be unveiling the plaque of the building. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. 10 minutes from now. Thank you. Thank you all.
Generosity and her contribution to science industry and all that. She is a great patron of art. She has a fantastic collection of paintings and promotes artists. The very first time I got interested in Kiran was when she dedicated that there is near that near Parade Cafe, that junction, there's a beautiful, yeah, to the country, I mean, to Bangalore, to promote art. And that is one aspect that makes her very unique, apart from her generosity. Here to you, Kiran.
Thank you, madam. On behalf of all of us, I present a bouquet to our president.
So this is also the time to thank Mr. Jayachandra for all the coordination for several years. Thank you.